Welcome back to the world of All Hallows Eve. In this video, we'll be talking about attacks and movements for the monsters. So, a monster, when they have their hand, they'll have a movement pool and a card hand. These can be used in any order you want. You can use a card, move two, use two cards, move your last one, in any order you see fit, as long as it is getting to your end goal of trying to get those pesky trick-or-treaters off the map and into your collection. But how do you do that? Well, your hand of three comes with various cards. Some will be attacks, heals, special abilities, powers, and so on. All of those will be laid out on your card. You will have your card name, what type it is, your range, and what it does. In this example, we are using Mischief's Scythe Slash. So it says that it is a range 1. We will go a little bit further into range here in a moment, but range 1 is 1 square away from your monster or any of the ones that's directly by it. To use it, you will declare an attack saying, I want to attack this trick-or-treater. You will play your card, and in this one, it tells me to roll 1d8. So you will select your dice, the corresponding dice to what it is, and you will roll. What are you rolling against though? Well, you see a trick-or-treater in front of you. You will find the corresponding trick-or-treater card, and the chaperone should have that in front of them. On there, there is a defense value in the top left corner. That you have to meet or beat to get the attack through. So, on my D8, I rolled a 6. So that trick-or-treater gets flipped over. I get to put it into my collection, and I am now one step closer to my goal as a monster of wiping out all the trick-or-treaters. The used card gets thrown in the discard pile, and if I still have movement or cards left, I can do that. So I do have one that says range 2, Chuck Head. I am 1, 2, 3 squares away from a bumblebee, but I was smart and remembered to save one of my movements. So I move 1 closer. I am now 1, 2 squares away, and I get to use my Chuck Head. I will roll a d4, as it says on the card, against the bee. The chaperone will look at the bee card and say, you roll the 1, my bee's defense is 4, so their monster miss ability happens. Most trick-or-treaters have both an ability that they can use on their turn or a monster miss for when the monster whiffs it. In this case, I get to move this bumblebee 1 square farther. He gets to huff it a little bit closer towards the house and remain alive. Range radiates out from your monster. So using this as an example, range 1 would be any square that's adjacent to the monster. Range 2 would be any square that is 1, 2 out, and that can also be diagonal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way out. Range 3 is 1, 2, 3, and so on. If you are trying to attack a trick-or-treater at range, you do have to make sure that you have line of sight. The trees on here, other tokens, other monsters don't block line of sight. The only thing that blocks line of sight would be one of the house squares. To determine whether or not you have a trick-or-treater that is within line of sight, you would go and take a line from the center of your monster, an imaginary line that goes to the center of their trick-or-treater, and as long as a house square doesn't clip it or go between it, you have a clear line of sight and you can make that ranged attack. For an example, if this trick-or-treater is hiding behind this house and this monster wants to try to chuck its head at it, can't do it. If it's off to the corner, but it clips those corner edges of the house square, it also can. But let's say it's diagonal and you have it within range and there's nothing blocking your sight, you can absolutely use your range at that point. Other cards may heal. There are cards that say at the beginning of your turn. Those can be either used at the beginning of the round for the monsters or at the beginning of your specific turn. Once you have used all of your cards, they'll go in the discard pile and you can draw up to 3 cards. Another feature is if you don't have any attack cards in your hand, but you still want to make an attack, you can discard you have to discard 2 cards, and you can either make a range 1 attack D6 minus 1, so whatever you roll on that D6, you subtract 1. Or you could discard the 2 to do a D4 range 2 to 3 attack. So you'll always have an option as long as you have cards to try and attack. Other things you can do with attacks that you need to know is attacking in or outside of an awareness zone. We will discuss awareness zones further in other videos, but for now, if you are within an awareness zone, you cannot make any attacks. Those trick-or-treaters have screamed, they have alerted the neighbors, they are looking at you, and your monster is unable to act within an awareness zone. That said, if you are outside of an awareness zone, and the trick-or-treater that you are so desperately trying to munch down on is inside one, ranged attacks and powers may still target into that awareness zone. If you were to do that, you can lure them out, you can attack them and harm them in any way, you just can't do it while your monster is inside of one. When we talk about items, that also includes the toilet paper or the glow stick as well. You also may not attack a trick-or-treater who has chosen to stay inside of a house. They cannot be targeted, lured by any means. They are, with grandma, they are super duper safe right now, as anyone with a grandma should be. And the last little bit is that any X attack, whether it be a monster ability, a monster attack, perhaps on a trick-or-treater card, if it says a power of X, the max for that is 5, which is still pretty substantial, but beyond that, things get silly. So X is always a max of 5. On our next video, we will be discussing trick-or-treater panic level. As the trick-or-treaters are picked off, their panic level goes up. They notice their friends are gone. What do? Well, they get a little bit smarter and a little bit wiser, and they get some tricks up their sleeves. Tune back in for that next. Thank you.